What's up everybody? Welcome to Happy Go by Hannah. I'm Hannah and this is where I strive to help you cultivate a happy, creative life. In today's video, I want to talk about pricing your artwork. I have seen so many young skilled artists on the internet not charging nearly enough for their work, and I believe that young people need to value their work more, which is why I've made this video. Disclaimer, I have done a lot of research, I have observed a lot of dialogues about this on Instagram and on Twitter, and I've even gotten some professional advice, but this video is still based on my personal opinion, so feel free to take it with a grain of salt. When you are a young artist and you're not necessarily selling art to pay bills, it's important to not get discouraged if your art isn't selling. If you're trying to sell your art because it's what you like to do and you'd like to start making money off of it, low demand is not a reason to have extremely low prices. What I mean by this is, don't set really low prices just because you think it'll make people more likely to buy your art. It's so important to value your work, that's why I'm making this video. When you're young and you're just starting out, it's important to note that not everyone is a prodigy, so if your art isn't selling, it's not because you're a bad artist. It may just because you don't have enough experience. Now is a really good time for you to work really hard and develop your skill in art. It takes a long time to develop art skills. And likewise, it takes a really long time to build an audience that will like your art enough to buy it. It's a long road, and it can be super frustrating, but like I talk about in my video about going after your dreams, if this is something you really want to do, you have to stick to it if you want to get to where you want to be. Now, if you are in a place where there is demand for your art or it is selling, you still need to make sure you're charging enough. If you can do the math and figure out that you are making less than minimum wage on a drawing that took you an hour or two, you are not charging enough. A couple important things I've learned when it comes to pricing art. When it comes to tangible, original art like paintings, it's important to charge by the square inch and not by the hour. For example, say you're making two similar paintings of the same exact size, and one of them takes you a little longer, because you're having difficulty with one section of the painting, or the other one you really get in the zone and it goes by quickly. That is not a good enough reason to charge a different amount of money per painting. Or say you like one better than the other, that's not a good enough reason to charge a different amount per painting. It's important to have consistent prices across the board, and by the square inch is one of the best ways to do that on original artwork. When it comes to digital art, and I'm talking about freelance commissions, not contracted or studio work. When it comes to freelance commissions, I think the wisest way to price your work is by subject matter and to set consistent guidelines along each of those. For example, you might have a set price for a one subject digital illustration, and you might increase the price when you add another subject to the drawing, or you might increase it a little for a really complicated background, just so long as you set specific guidelines. You also might offer sketches for a lower price than fully rendered drawings. This is great, just as long as you stay consistent. Now, about charging too little. Earlier I mentioned if you can calculate that you're making less than minimum wage, even though you shouldn't be charging by the hour, if you can calculate that you made less than minimum wage, you're not charging enough. Making art is work. You need to value your time and your effort and what you create with that time and effort. Do not play the comparison game and say, well, I'm not as good as this artist, so I shouldn't charge as much as them. Figure out how much you value your work. Yes, it is still important to observe the market and see how other artists are pricing their work so you don't get too extravagant. If you see an artist about the same skill level as you charging more and selling their artwork at that price, go ahead and raise your prices a little bit. If you find an artist about your same skill level charging less than you and selling, and you're not selling, if you can help it, don't lower your prices. Instead, focus on building your audience and your skill. This is because another important thing to know is that it is not good practice to lower your commission prices. Think of an art collector who really likes your work, buys one of your paintings, is so happy about it. You turn around and you make a new painting and sell it for significantly less than that one. They're gonna feel gypped. They're gonna be upset that what they bought has just gone down in value. Art typically increases in value over time. That's why you see artists raising their prices as time goes on, because their skill level and their audience has grown. Okay, let's talk real numbers for a minute, but keep in mind that I am just one artist. This has been my personal experience. I used to take commissions for realistic pet portraits, and in the beginning these were all acrylic paintings on canvas. My very first commission was for an 8x10 that I charged $40 for. At the time, I didn't know to price things by the square inch, so I really had just made a guess as to how much I should charge for this. and I decided on $40, you know, based on the input of some people around me, so that's all fine and dandy. A few years later, I was charging $60 for the same thing. We're talking about an 8x10. An 8x10 canvas is my example. Fast forward again, I was charging $90. Now, I don't take commissions for these paintings anymore, but my most recent pet portrait painting commission on an 8x10 canvas, I charged $240 for. That means that in the course of about 8 years, I went from charging 50 cents per square inch to $3 per square inch. That might seem like a lot, that might not, but 8 years is a long time and my skill level went up by a lot. If your intent is to improve your art skills over time, then your clients will understand the increase in price and they will know that it's worth it and it's worth your time and effort to pay more. I do price my digital art differently. Rather than by the square inch, I charge by subject, but I still value my time and art in that respect. So another example, you might at one point have charged $25 for a fully rendered digital illustration, and 6 months or a year later, you might charge $27, and then you might charge $30, or if the demand for your art is going up quickly, then you might want to raise those prices sooner. The last thing that I want to talk about, which is very important, is that when you have set prices for your work, you need to stick to them. I personally don't haggle on my commission prices at all. If someone asks for a commission and then tells you that you're charging too much, if you've done your research and you know that you're valuing your work well and you feel that that price is worth your time, then it's not that your prices are too high, it's just that they can't afford your work. Never back down just because someone on the internet tells you you're charging too much. This is a little different from offering a discount for a special event because in those situations, you still know the real value of your work, which makes the discount really special. I really hope you found this video helpful. If you have any other questions about pricing your work, feel free to leave a comment. And be sure to like this video and subscribe. Huge shout out to my members on Patreon. I love you so much. Joanna, Patricia, Brannery. If you're interested in some exclusive behind the scenes, such as my process for art, be sure to check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And that's about it for today, so I will see you next time. Bye.